B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. Shavua Tov, Shavua Mevorach to the converts group. This audio is specifically for people that are going through conversion, to give you a little bit of guidance of what you should be doing if you're serious about conversion. So first and foremost, as I've said many times, conversion is a two-part process. One is education. A person must learn the required teachings of the Torah in order to know what life is like as a Jew, which means that they have to completely forsake all of their previous beliefs in Jesus, in Buddha, in the Quran, any other belief other than the Torah itself. As long as a person believes in anything else other than the Torah, even if it's like a self-help guru, as long as they believe in these things, they cannot be considered an authentic, real Jew. Even if they fool the Beit Din and tell them they don't believe, but in reality they believe, remember, you cannot fool God. So a person must forsake all of these previous beliefs. Now, in order to forsake these beliefs, obviously you can't just stop believing something that you've believed your whole life. It's not, it's not like a headache where you could take a pill and it goes away. So this is also part of the reason of why a person needs to, educate themselves properly for this thing. The stronger the belief in idolatry and other beliefs outside of the Torah, the more education they need to have on this particular subject. We've made a lecture, a couple of them, but one main one about exposing the New Testament, and anyone that's wants to know more details about the falsehood of Christianity in the New Testament should watch that video. There's obviously also the famous lecture by the debate by Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi that destroyed Christianity, and there's obviously countless lectures by Rabbi Tovia Singer, and also the organization Jews for Judaism, that have made countless lectures showing that Christianity is completely false. Now, a person shouldn't necessarily focus on this to the extent where they spent the rest of their life just learning about this topic. If you're planning on converting, really all you need to learn is enough to know that it's completely false, and then move on. You don't need to necessarily continue learning about this topic. Once you know it's false, that's it. Chalas, finished. Move on to the rest of the Jewish teachings. People that harp on this particular subject and just stay on it and on it and on it and on it end up knowing a lot about this topic, but nothing about Judaism itself. So the key part of this is just to know enough that Christianity, Islam, and all other religions are completely man-made falsehood. Once you know that in your own soul, you know that in your mind, there's no doubts whatsoever left, that's it, you move on. You move on and you focus just on Jewish teachings. So that's for people that still have a belief. Once you've eliminated that belief, then you continue with the rest of the teachings that are necessary to learn the 5 books of Moses mainly. There are obviously more to learn than just the 5 books of Moses. You have the entire Tanakh that has 19 other books, but the main key is the 5 books of Moses. That's where we get our laws from. That's the foundation. When we say written Torah, that's what we refer to. The 5 books of Moses is something that a person must read and understand with commentary by our sages, mainly Rashi. The reason why is because without reading the Torah with commentary, a person is simply not going to know who is talking, what is being talked about, and they're simply going to be learning it like a Christian learns it, which is, to their own likings and their own logic, which is human logic, which is flawed. So by learning the commentary from our sages, you're literally learning the words of God, because this is part of our oral Torah that we got at Mount Sinai. So it's not per se the human logic like the Christians, but rather the divine logic of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So a person must learn the Torah with commentary. To start off just with Rashi, over time, as they continue their learning over the years, They could add other commentaries like the Ramban, Rambam, and many, many other commentaries. Now, aside from that, they need to learn the laws of Judaism, the laws of the basics of it. Not all of the details. They don't need to review the entire Shulchan Aruch and every posek, but rather the basics, day-to-day life. What's the basic rules of Shabbat, the 39 restrictions of Shabbat, the basic rules of kashrut, kosher food, what to eat, what's not allowed to eat, are we allowed to eat together? Well, we're not allowed to eat together. If, for example, you're allowed to eat kosher dairy and kosher meat, but you're not allowed to eat them together. You're allowed to eat kosher dairy and then wash your mouth and immediately eat kosher meat if you'd like, or kosher chicken if you'd like. But if you eat kosher meat or chicken, you cannot just wash your mouth and eat kosher dairy. You have to wait 6 hours. So here we see that this law is really important to know. Same thing is with the rest of the rules. Like, for example, the blessings. You need to know the blessings of what you do, what you say before you eat everything, before you eat bread, before you drink wine, before you eat a fruit of the tree, vegetables, pastries. All of these details are things a person needs to know, because in Judaism, the Gemara in Tractate Brachot says if a person enjoys anything of this world without blessing God, he's stealing. Who's he stealing from? He's stealing from God. So a person needs to be, say thank you. But again, not thank you like the Christians where they just say thank you for giving us and that's it. We in Judaism, we have two blessings. We have a blessing that we say before we eat and a blessing we say after we finish eating. Because the blessing that we eat is thank God that we have the food. But the blessing we say after is thank you, God, for satiating us. That itself is also a blessing, and there's multiple blessings there. Again, this may sound in the beginning a little bit, big on us and difficult, but it really isn't. You get used to it, and it becomes like breathing. A person needs to know the holidays, all of the Jewish holidays. What is their foundation? Why do we celebrate them? Why do we fast? What happens on those holidays? How do we celebrate them? They need to know that. The list of books that we recommend has a series of books that discuss this alone as well. A person needs to know the rules of modesty, both for men and women. Every person, whether Jew or Gentile, must be modest, but there's a bigger stringency for Jews than there is for non-Jews. There is modesty of clothes, which surely means that the married women must cover their hair, they must cover their body. If they wear, if they're going outside, they have to wear dresses that, at the minimum, are loose fitting and not tight, and are covering their leg to the extent where it's beyond the bottom of their knee by 6 inches. Ideally, it should reach their ankles. But if they have a shorter skirt, the shortest that they're allowed to wear is one that is covering about 2/3 of their leg, which is below the bottom of the knee by 6 inches. So the bottom of the knee plus 6 inches. And it needs to be a skirt, no pants, because pants are men's clothing, which is a different mitzvah that the Torah says is forbidden for women. Men also have to learn the rules of prayer, where they, a Jewish man prays 3 times a day, a Jewish woman prays once a day. A Jewish man has to learn Torah every day and night. He has to learn. He has to make time in the morning and time at night. He works during the day, that's not a problem, but he has to make some time during the day to learn a little bit, and he has to make time to learn at night. A woman needs to learn at some point because she needs to know the basics as well, but not as much as the man. So all of these different things that a person needs to learn, these are day-to-day rules of a Jew. What every Jew needs to know. A Jew needs to pray, and a Jew needs to learn, a Jew needs to eat kosher food, needs to be kosher business, meaning that the business itself must be an ethical business. must work on their character traits and develop them. If anger, stinginess, arrogance, all of these negative character traits are forbidden. And each time a person expresses those negative character traits, they're separating themselves from God, because God detests arrogant people. As he says, Toivat Hashem kol gvalev. Anyone that has arrogance in their heart is considered disgusting in the eyes of Hashem. Of course, Hashem knows that we came to the world arrogant. So how can we get to a point where he's not disgusted by us? By learning Torah and by becoming humble. But that takes time. It's not just overnight. The more Torah a person learns, the more Musar specifically that a person learns from the Torah, the more they'll become humbled. And this, again, takes time. So the first thing is, like I said, is the learning. The second part is actually the doing, the actions. So in order to, take conversion seriously, a person must move to a Jewish community. You cannot convert in the middle of nowhere by yourself. You have to be in a Jewish community. You have to be part of a kosher Orthodox community. Again, every community has its ups and downs. There's no such thing as a perfect community, but you need to find one that's a right fit for you. I know that this is a very big difficulty for many people because of financial reasons. But remember, God is the one that decides how much money you're going to get and not going to get, which means that if you have not been given the right amount of money in order for you to move, that's in essence God telling you you're not ready yet on the other aspects of Judaism, meaning you haven't changed enough on other things in order for me to open the gates of heaven and allow you to have the money that's necessary. So it could be that you haven't learned enough. It could be that you're not trying hard enough to do what's necessary, even making a living. You're not trying hard enough to make a living in order to move to a Jewish community, or you want to work only once a week, when in reality you could work 5 days a week. So in that particular case, if a person really wants it, he'll make it so. Or you only study once a week instead of studying every day during the week. So if a person really wants it, he'll do it. The point is that we have to make our own ishtadlut. We have to make our own efforts, but at the same token, we also have to have faith in God. So faith in God is something that you build over time. No one is born with 100% faith, not even Moses. So a person has to be realistic with themselves, and they have to do their best, their very best, to try to make the life changes that are necessary. So moving to a Jewish community is a prerequisite for conversion. Further, they also have to start, doing things that they would be doing as a Jew, such as they have to start praying every day, they have to start learning every day, they have to start eating kosher every day. They have to do all of the things that they can do right now. But when it comes to specific laws that are strictly for the Jews, for example, anyone can eat kosher food. That's not just strictly for the Jews. It's strictly for the Jews to keep that, but other people are allowed to keep kosher. But when it comes to the holidays, such as Yom Kippur, Pesach, or Shabbat, these are specific gifts that God gave the Jews, meaning that it's prohibited for non-Jews to keep these laws. But if a person is in the process of converting, then they have to start keeping Shabbat, and they have to start keeping Pesach, and they have to start keeping Yom Kippur, because they're in the process of converting, but they have to keep it 99%. What does it mean, 99%? They have to do all of it. Let's say, for example, the fast of Yom Kippur, and they have to keep it, let's say it's 25 hours. You keep it, but you break it at some point by taking a drink. Drinking a glass of water at some point, anytime that the person wants. 2 hours into it, 5 hours into it, 20 hours into it, doesn't make a difference, but he has to break it a little bit. Same thing with Shabbat. You keep the Shabbat, not using electricity, not using fire, if you will, and not cooking, and not driving. You do all of that like a Jew does, but you break it once. So you'll turn on the light one time, or you'll turn on a match one time and shut it off. You'll do a minor intentional violation, because at this stage, since you're still not Jewish yet, you're not allowed to keep it 100%. You keep it 99%. And that's what the sages have advised us in many places, that in order for a person to be careful, even during their conversion. As far as their learning, a person must learn the things that they're obligated to learn, and not necessarily the prerequisite, the extras. Meaning that your learning during the process of conversion should be the 5 books of Moses, the laws of blessings, the laws of Shabbat, the laws of the holidays, modesty, the day-to-day stuff. That's the stuff that you need to learn, and I provided a list in this group and others of the things that need to be learned for the sake of conversion. So this is the main stuff that a person needs to learn. Musar, they need to learn as well, because character development is an everyday thing forever. But there are other things that people like to learn, but they're really not, not necessary, and generally speaking, should not be learned. Like, for example, you shouldn't learn Gemara. You shouldn't go into the Zohar. You shouldn't learn too much about the things that don't necessarily affect your day-to-day life right now. Because we as Jews have to learn the foundation, the principles of our day-to-day life every day. And the extras, we also need to learn, but that's, again, extras. It's called extras. It's not as something that is going to help you with your day-to-day life. For example, a lot of people like to learn about Mashiach and what's going to happen after Mashiach comes. This is very nice. It's very intriguing. It's very mentally stimulating, but it's not going to help your day-to-day life to know about Mashiach. It's with all due respect to all of the people that like to talk about Mashiach all the time, it's not really going to help you. We've talked about it here and there randomly, but we don't talk about it every day, because the day-to-day life of a Jew is something that has a lot more than just Mashiach. You need to know that you're going to be a kosher Jew. So a person needs to know the things that are day-to-day, and keep the laws 99%, and make sure that when they move into a Jewish community, they start, they live a Jewish life, if you will, but also keep it modest. Don't express your Judaism exterior, meaning if you're a guy, don't have the tzitzit outside, have it, tucked in inside. Don't start growing the payas, because again, it's number one, not a law that's obligatory for a Jew anyway. But aside from that, it's since you're still in the process of conversion, you never want to get to a point where you look too Jewish, to the extent where, if ever chas v'shalom, but you decide to back out, it would look as if a Jew left God rather than a Gentile just decided to stay a Gentile. So you want to, look presentable, look modest, but don't get overboard. Don't start looking as if you just came down from Mount Sinai yesterday. It's a bad idea, and it could lead you to what I mentioned in my lecture, the dangerous world of conversion, which is that people start acting like a Jew, looking like a Jew so much that they start thinking that they don't even need to convert anymore, because they feel like they think you should feel like a Jew. And this is a mistake. This is a very big mistake, and I've seen it cause a lot of damage to a lot of people. Main thing is the learning and the doing what the Torah says. You have to make yourself a rabbi, meaning you have to get yourself a rabbi that's going to guide you, whether that is your local rabbi, or it's going to be me, or it's going to be someone else. The key is to make sure that whoever this person is, they're an honest person that has fear of the Almighty, and is someone that is knowledgeable about this specific issue. Sometimes people will have a couple of rabbis to help them with conversion. One is the local rabbi, and one is a second rabbi that's motivating them, perhaps, or teaching them other things that their local rabbi is not. Either way, a person must have a local rabbi, one way or the other, because that's the rabbi of the congregation that they're becoming a part of, and they need to do whatever they can to live their life as a Jew, but at the same token, remember that they're still in a conversion process. Next thing is in regards to putting on tefillin. Because this mitzvah is specifically for Jews, this is only recommended for people to start after they complete their conversion. Some start doing it, when they're in the last stage of conversion, meaning, let's say they've gone through conversion already for a year or two, or however long it's been, and now their rabbi is telling them, okay, we have a meeting with the Bet Din in a month from now or 2 months from now. Once you know that there's a time frame, the rabbi will tell you, okay, you can start laying on tefillin. You have to obviously buy a pair of kosher tefillin, and start learning how to lay them every day, except Shabbat and holidays. And they have to get themselves a talit gadol. They have to get this other part of their of practicing Judaism. This is only for men, not for women. Again, there are certain things that the rabbi will teach you that are along the way. Some things are right away. Also, the brit milah, the circumcision. If a person wasn't circumcised at birth, then they need to get circumcised. Men need to get circumcised as part of the conversion. Do not circumcise yourself or go get circumcised by a doctor on your own. This has to be part of what the Bet Din is going to help you with, meaning that they have to supervise the circumcision to make sure that it's a Jewish circumcision and not a Muslim circumcision and not a Gentile circumcision. Yes, there are multiple ways to circumcise the male member, and if you do it wrong, then you are causing yourself more pain and agony than you need, because you'll have to have a second circumcision. So do yourself the favor. Do not circumcise yourself. This actually is frowned upon by the Bet Din as a sign that the person does not listen to the sages, and they could literally just put the person on a ban where no one would want to convert him. So be very careful if you are going to convert seriously. Do not circumcise yourself. Don't take it upon yourself. Wait, be patient. And that's also the other thing. You have to be patient. People always ask, how long does it take? And I answer always, it could take 6 months, it could take 60 years. Whichever one it is, based on your motivation, based on your dedication, and based on your ability. There's no specific timing for conversion. Some people take less, some people take more. It all depends on how much effort a person is putting into it, and how dedicated they are and how quickly they're able to make certain changes. If you live in the middle of nowhere and in some country, and there's no Jewish community there, then you obviously have to move. Moving alone could take you 6 months to a year. The conversion process doesn't really even begin. To be really a formal process until that happens. But again, as far as other people that already live in, let's say, places like New York or Israel or California, Los Angeles, different parts of California that have a lot of Jews, or different parts of the U.S. that have a lot of Jews, or other places in the world that have a lot of Jews, that have a Jewish community, then moving is much easier than, or they may already be living in a Jewish community. So that big burden is already resolved. So the rest of it is relatively easier. Point being is that there's no timing on it. It also depends on the Bet Din. The Bet Dins of today are a lot more strict than they used to be because of bad converts in the past, people that would convert for the wrong reasons. So some Bet Dins are quicker than others. Some Bet Dins take longer than others. But also remember, not all Bet Dins are the same, are alike. A Bet Din is a Jewish judicial court, and they're not all alike. You have to use one that is recognized by the Rabbanut of Israel. If you use just 3 rabbis that just are nice people and want to convert you, you will create major problems for yourself and your kids in the future. Do not do this. Because if you have kids and they want to get married one day, those kids will not be considered Jewish by many people. And they're going to end up could break up even a family. Don't do this to yourself. I mentioned this also in the lecture, the dangerous world of conversion. There are some people that recommend, for people to convert on their own, just to get themselves 3 Jews and they'll convert you, and all this stuff that they recommend. This is against the advice of what Chachmei Yisrael say, the wise men of Am Yisrael say, because again, although halachically it could be considered legitimate conversions, it does create problems for the future, marriage problems, and for yourself, for kids, and so on. Long story short, don't try to shortcut this whole thing. If you try to shortcut it as if it's a driver's test or a test for some real estate license or something like that, you're going to create yourself a lot of problems, and you're probably going to be rejected by the Jews themselves. Because again, if you're not willing to sacrifice some time and some effort and also some resources, some money that's going to cause you to become a Jew, whether it's to pay the Bedin or to buy tefillin or whatever, books or whatever it is, if you think this whole thing is going to come for free as if somebody owes you something, then you're mistaken. Nobody owes you anything. The Jewish people have suffered for over 3,300 years in order to maintain their Judaism. If you're not even willing to make sacrifices for a certain amount of time in order to join these chosen people, then obviously you should not be a Jew. You should remain a Gentile. You may be a very nice person, and you should remain a nice person. But don't become one of these converts that hates Jews. Don't become one of these converts that thinks that he's better than all other Jews because you converted and you chose. Yes, you have a very special place in the eyes of Hashem if you become a righteous Jew. But a righteous Jew is also required to love Jews, not to think he's better than all of them. So it's very, very important for people to know that there is a Gemara that discusses it, that says that the converts are like a skin disease to the nation of Israel. And the sages say why. It says they're a skin disease because skin disease is difficult. Why is it difficult? It says if they are a good convert, meaning they're a righteous convert, then they make the rest of the Jews, feel, like insecure, which is a good thing, but it's annoying. It's a good thing because it helps other people do tshuva, but it's annoying that to see that someone's doing better than you and he just started just a few years ago. On the other hand, it's a skin disease if it's a bad convert, meaning it's a convert that converted for the wrong reason. It's a convert that shouldn't have converted at all. And these are the part of the Erev Rav. These part of the people that have been torturing the people of Israel for the last 3,000 years. These fake converts that came from Egypt, their souls have been torturing us for the last 3,000 years. And unfortunately, I know a few of them today that are really horrible converts that we wish they would have never converted, but unfortunately they did. And these people are simply bad people. They do not follow the Torah. They do not follow the rabbis. They just follow whatever they think is right, whatever they think is good. They make fun of the Torah. They make fun of a lot of different critical parts of Judaism as if they know better. And this is also why the Gemara says that a convert, although you're obligated to love a convert as much as you love God, remember that's talking about a convert that's a good one, that's a righteous one. In order to be a righteous one, a person needs to work on themselves. So again, there are sacrifices, there are difficulties. This is all the will of Hashem. Hashem is giving you the difficulty. Hashem is giving you the tests. And a person has to accept those tests with love and accept those tests and understand that this is the will of Hashem. And Be'ezrat Hashem, if they focus on the goal, they will overcome it and eventually become part of the chosen people, part of Am Yisrael, and they'll be able to encourage not only their own family, but also the people around them. And Be'ezrat Hashem, they do that sooner rather than later. If they don't want to make sacrifices and they think that they should be gifted conversion on a silver platter like Christianity and like Muslims do, and in 1 second you become a Muslim or a Christian, then they're going into the wrong religion because it doesn't work that way. It's not because of money. It's because in Judaism, we are very, very careful because we know that if you drive on Shabbat as a Gentile, there's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to drive on Shabbat as a Gentile. You're allowed to eat pig if you're a Gentile. You're allowed to, do a lot of things as a Gentile that a Jew is forbidden from doing. So we know that if a person is not willing to make the sacrifices to become a Jew, it's better off he doesn't become a Jew. because once he becomes a Jew, and there's no more leeway. So that means that if he continues making those sins, he is going to bring harm on himself in this world and the next. So have to be careful. It's better he doesn't convert than convert and make those sins. I'm talking about intentional sins. Everybody sins, unintentionally, but the key is to not make intentional sins. So a person must work on themselves. B'ezrat Hashem just gave you guys some guidance of what it takes to convert, the conversion process. Again, it's 2 steps. It's the learning. Second step is the doing. It's having a rabbi that's a local rabbi. It's having a rabbi that's going to guide you, that could be local and doesn't necessarily need to be local. And it's also making sure that you make the necessary sacrifices and have the necessary patience to do what's necessary in order to convert. B'ezrat Hashem just gives everybody the chizuk that's necessary. And remember, before the end of times, the Gemara says there will be a lot of converts, which means that there are a lot of people just like you from all over the world. You're not the only person that wants to convert. There are literally new ones that contact me every single day. Every day of the week, some new person that wants to convert contacts me. Sometimes it's 5-10 a day, every single day. So there's a lot of people that want to convert now more than any other time in history. It's one of the signs of the end of days, one of the signs that Mashiach is near. So it's a very big deal. The Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah, page 3b, beginning of 4a, says there was going to be a lot of converts, and once there is a Mashiach comes, there's no more conversion. So that means that everybody needs to do whatever they can to make the necessary changes, to hurry themselves up and not delay. What about if the Mashiach comes and you're already in the process of conversion? Don't worry, Hashem knows that too, and He'll let you convert. But again, that's assuming that you've done everything necessary in order to convert and didn't delay it until it soothed your needs, until it was ready for you. You did everything that's necessary. You made the mesirut nefesh, the self-sacrifice, to do everything possible to convert, and simply what delayed you to convert is out of your hands. Like, for example, the bet din wasn't ready, or you simply just didn't have the money. You're working, you were doing everything possible, you were saving, it just didn't get to it, which is hard to believe, because when somebody wants something and life and death is on the line, they find a way to get the money. But the reality is, everybody knows themselves. Everybody knows what's necessary, and everyone's going to be a judge of themselves. So if you've made all the sacrifices and the Mashiach arrives, you have nothing to worry about. But if you didn't make those sacrifices, then you wasted your time. You wasted your time. You're still going to be a righteous Gentile, but that's a world apart from being a righteous Jew. Either way, Rabotai Yekarim, we try to help converts on a daily basis, not only because it's a mitzvah, but also because we have a special place in our heart for them. As you know, my personal story. And my dear wife is a convert, and the many converts that we've helped over the years, we've helped them convert, we've helped them get married, we've helped them with their day-to-day life, and we will continue helping them as much as HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps us and allows us to help them. But at the same token, you guys have to help us. It's not cheap to run the organization. It's not, although the services are free, I don't charge a penny. But it's not free. It costs money. All this time costs money. All the books that we send out, all of the videos that we make, all of these employees that work for B'ezrat Hashem, they all cost money. You have to help us as well. And whatever your means are, whatever you can. Again, this is not a promotion to make money here. This is, again, none of this money is going to be building me any houses or anything. But the key is, a person needs to know that everything is measure for measure. The more a person helps Am Yisrael, the more Hashem helps them. That's as simple as it gets. So this is also one of the things that a person needs to take into account. More importantly, learn as much as you possibly can about Hashem. Learn as much as you possibly can about what Hashem wants. What did He say in the Torah? Because that's how we know what He wants. How do the sages explain it? And B'ezrat Hashem, you'll have a clear path of success, to conversion, to getting close to Hashem, to fulfilling the will of Hashem, you, your family, your loved ones, and that's the main key. focus on yourself, save yourself, and then everybody else follows. Unless you're already married, which means that you have to help the person that you're married to, because you cannot convert and your spouse not convert, because intermarriage is forbidden. But with that putting aside for a different video, a person needs to save themselves, worry about everybody else that's that they're not married to later on, and B'ezrat Hashem, you'll have success. Please let me know if you have any other questions. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll talk soon. Kol Tuv.